guys, so my name is Annalie Fox, and I actually just wanted to take a couple seconds and introduce myself. I am a senior at UNM. I'm getting ready to graduate with a degree in psychology and a degree in religious studies. And I just wanted to tell you what a pleasure it's been to be, working on discussions and various things with you guys. It's been quite a pleasure. You guys are amazing. For my project, I will be discussing temperament and its stability over a lifetime. Okay, so we're just going to dive right into it. So temperament is, according to our book, it's a person's characteristic, inborn style of dealing with the world, but it's also the aspect of an individual's personality that are being expressed and that are not learned, but are more developed because of one's own thought. So it's basically like if you're observing and you're seeing so many different stimuli in your world, and you're taking it all in, and you're thinking about it, and you're thinking about, how am I going to act on this? How am I going to, how am I going to respond to all of this? That's what your temperament's going to be, because it's formulating who you are, but it's not necessarily your personality. It's also described by specific behaviors, and the reason for that is because these behaviors are so specific that you can test them and you can measure them during childhood. Some common examples of your temperament can actually be like your activity level, your irritability, even in your amount of smile, and even how children react when they're presented with objects and stuff that they're not familiar with. So everyone's is going to be a little bit different. Everyone's brought up different. We have different ethnicities, religious backgrounds. Everyone's going to be a little bit, special and unique, especially in their temperament, because nobody thinks in the same way. We think similarly, but not precisely in the exact same way as others. So what makes people's temperament different from others? Temperament is very much based on the personality of the child, and then the influences about, their environment and the parenting methods that are going along with the child. So the temperament is a child's personality while it's being expressed. So it's how a child is happy or they're sad, but it's also everything else in between. It can be like their sleep pattern. It can be more reflective things, like, are they shy? How do they respond to new things? Are they moody? Are they distractible? How is that child different? And everyone's is going to be different. So it depends on every single amount of, of different environmental factors going into life. Like, everyone's brought up differently. Everyone's got a different ethnicity. Everyone's more around their family. Everyone's temperament's going to be different because of how they grew up and everything that they were influenced by. So something that really amazed me was that temperament cannot be determined or changed. So basically what that means is that is how your child is, that is how your child came to be, and parents cannot change them. So many parents, when their child acts out or they don't behave in a way that is expected, they get really frustrated and they feel as if they cannot mold their child into what they may view as the perfect child. So an example of not responding to your child's temperament and, going against, like, instead what you would want them to be, would be like if your child is incredibly shy and they're shy and they're scared of, like, everybody that they don't know and they're unfamiliar with. Well, if your child's going to be shy and you present them with a stranger and your child is hesitant and kind of, scared, but you punish them for being a stranger, you're not parenting your child in accordance to their temperament. You're more trying to change them and mold them instead of to letting them be who they are. In the 1950s, there were two psychologists named Thomas and Chet, and they wanted to do a longitudinal study to discover more about infancy and how the different qualities in life formed your temperament, because they noticed certain similarities, and they wanted to basically categorize, this is what this is, and this child is different from this child because of, X, Y, and Z. So they did a longitudinal study and specifically found 9 behaviors in children that made it much more easy to understand temperament and basically label it, because you could actually measure these things and discover more and just observe how children were different in terms of these different behaviors. So the 9 behaviors are all very different. Some of them are very physical, some of them are more moody, but the first one is very straightforward. The activity is the amount of physical energy that a child has. a child with like a very high energy may have difficulty, sitting in class because they just have so much energy and feel more comfortable running around on the playground than reading a book. Whereas somebody that has like a very low-key energy is okay to just sit and kind of do their own thing. Regularity or rhythmicity is basically, how predictable is the child, especially in terms of biological function. So when do they wake up? When do they get tired? When are they hungry? And even when do they go to the restroom? Child with a very high rhythmicity is very predictable, where somebody else is more sporadic and is comfortable being sporadic and doesn't need a very strict routine. The third one is the initial reaction, and it's basically the approach or withdrawal. So for instance, if you're presented a child with a clown and the child's more nervous about it, how are they going to respond? Are they going to approach it with wide-eyed and really excited? Or are they going to withdraw and be a little bit more timid towards the clown? The sensory threshold is also very similar to that. We're going to go back to the clown. If you have a clown, some child that, is more comfortable with it is going to absorb everything. The colors, the happiness, the smiles, maybe even the smell. Or somebody that's more not in touch with their sensories is just going to maybe see the clouds and not see, the brightness and the excitement that's going along with it. Intensity. Intensity refers to the energy level of a positive or negative response. So if you have another sibling and your sibling jumps out and says, boo, and it really scares you, well, maybe if you're a more intense child, you may jump up, down, and scream and be a little bit more excited. Whereas somebody's more mild-mannered will maybe like smile or show little or no emotion. Mood is the following one, and it refers to the tendency to be like happy or unhappy. So if you have a happy baby, you know that they're happy because they're cheerful and they're cooing and they're smiling. Whereas if you have another baby who's kind of fussy, they're going to probably be received more as like a negative mood. The next one is distractibility, and it's basically exactly what it sounds like. If you have a child that's being told to sit there and do their homework, and maybe you have the TV running, well, that would be a good indication that they don't have a very good, ability to focus, and they don't have a very good attention span. Finally, sensitivity. This is basically how children respond to changes in their environment. So this could be like if you transfer to a new school, is the child going to be comfortable starting a new school? Are they going to really miss their old one, maybe miss their friends, not want to move on with their lives? While expanding more on their temperament study, Thomas and Chess identified three main types of child that 60% of the population fall into. They're basically the easy child, the difficult child, and the slow to warm up child. These three categories that Chess and Thomas were able to identify are basically the three main types of temperament that we know today. The first one is the easy child, and it's very, very easygoing, has regular eating habits, proper bowel movements. The only biggest frustration that people had was that they found that these child, when they were taken out of what they knew, when they were taken out of their routine, were not as comfortable and had maybe a harder time completing tasks because it's not what they are accustomed to and not what they were expected to do in their normal situations in life. The typical child is the opposite of the easy child. They do not have these patterns when exposed to new situations that are unfamiliar. They're deeply frustrated. And the biggest issue that was reported is this, like, if they're pushed to do something that they don't want to do, refusal and aggressive behavior can come out quite commonly just because that's what, is more associated with their temperament. Finally, there's the slow to warm up child, and these ones are their negative response when they're exposed to new situations, but over time they're okay and they can adjust to it and they can learn more and adjust. Their biological routines were pretty much normal, and there were still other issues that can be discussed within the 9 behaviors. In conclusion, when I was looking more about the stability of your temperament, the longitudinal studies that have been conducted shows that when you're in your first couple of years of age, you're moving and you're grooving and you're taking in everything from your life and you're thinking about it. And so you're trying to reflect on your behavior and how it's going to change you and how you're going to respond to things and how you're basically becoming your own individual. But by age 5, you're more stable. So temperament is going to be your patterns and how you're going to change and how you are as a person. And you all know who you are. Some of you are morning people and you get up bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, and some of you, maybe your patterns are that you like to take it slower and you get going, and everyone's going to be a little bit different. So basically, your temperament is always going to grow in on itself. The more that you learn, the more that you observe from your world, it's just going to continue to get bigger and better. So that your patterns that you have when you were younger have the ability to change and be influenced, but they're never fully going to go away, and they're always going to be who you are.